Good morning, teachers. This is my observation number two. My name is Monica Llanos, and it's going to be my principal practicum observation number two. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and pass out the agenda. So I'm going to give you a copy of the agenda that we're going to be covering this meeting. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to welcome you here, and I'm thankful for you all taking the time to sit in my observation. We're going to go ahead and have our purpose and goal for this presentation is to go over the curriculum that PSJ INC has in place. This is third grade. We're going to cover the third grade reading curriculum, which is what we use for our English language arts blocks for our students at Over Elementary. And then we're going to go ahead and cover the third grade math curriculum that PSGIC has for our students. We are also going to be covering some important information in regards to the STAR testing dates, and we'll get into further information. We're going to go ahead and cover some more information on that. So the purpose of the meeting, why am I having this meeting? It's to cover curriculum, and it's for us to come together, collaborate, and review and understand how our curriculum and discuss the additional resources that our school district has that we can utilize as teachers, and not just focusing on the books or the textbooks that are given. We are also going to be going over some STAR dates, which is very important as teachers for us to know and for us to relay that information to the students to get them prepared and for our parents. We also will be covering how our tutoring is handled. So we're going to explain our tutoring, the dates, the time, and how important it is to make sure that our tutoring is intentional for our students. And we will also be going over some school expectations and increasing parental involvement. So we're going to go ahead and go over that. So the first one is that we're going to cover is going to be the curriculum. What does PSJIC offer for our students? So in reading, we do have our Pearson, which is our new adoption. We barely got it this year. It's brand new, and it is My View, and it is by Pearson. So that is our new curriculum, and this is one of the examples that I have as a teacher copy. It is the teacher edition, and it is My View in English. And then for the Spanish students, we have the Mi Visión for English language arts, for the English language arts for our dual students. So we have Mi Visión, and then we also have additional resources that we use. Is we have a consultant, Yana Ramirez, and we have all been to some of the trainings, and we get a lot of extra resources such as graphic organizers that will be going in detail. That way we all understand how to use those and how to implement them in the classroom with our students. We do also have our math Sharon Wells, and we'll go over in detail. This is part of our curriculum, our math, and when we get into the math area, we'll go ahead and discuss the components and how we're supposed to be implementing in the classroom with our students. Are there any questions so far right now? Have any questions? We're good? Yes? Okay. So reading curriculum. So we're going to go over the reading curriculum first, which is a very important component. It's one of our largest components in our core subjects because it consists of our grammar, our reading, and our spelling. So by looking at this, and our writing, I'm sorry. So by looking at this, it's our first definition of curriculum is making it usable to teachers and students. So this quote right here is by our consultant, Yana Ramirez, and she believes that when we have a curriculum that teachers can utilize, so can the students. So as teachers, we need to be, we need to know, understand how to use it. We need to be familiar. We ourselves need to have a hands-on with it and make sure that we analyze the information before getting into the classroom and maybe deliver the lesson. So we are offered the training by her, and she makes it usable for us and for the students. So our state curriculum, we have our new ELAR TEKS, which are our new state standards for the PSJIC for the state of Texas. They did change. We transitioned from our old TEKS to our new TEKS. And there's a lot of changes going on. There's a lot of new skills that have been uh, combined, and then some of the skills have been removed to a different area as far as to genres and what have you. And we're going to discuss a little bit more about those in detail in a bit. So our district resources as teachers, we don't just rely on our adoption. We have, which is My Pearson, we have our adoption, plus we also have our DMR consultant that comes in and, we get our training, and that's where we get the extra resources that we can utilize for the graphic organizers. So all that together in one, we're able to provide our students an enriched curriculum where it fits all different levels of the students, from your struggling student to your advanced level student. So at that point, we try to target every single TEK at different levels. That way the students can understand what they're reading, their fluency, their comprehension, and analyzing what they're reading and making sure that they understand all that good information that is required. Any questions in regards to this information? Do I have, ladies? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with our ELA. So this is our ELA RT. These are the new state standards that were adopted by the state. So this is our first year implementing them. So we're on a learning process of understanding how the components are, what strands, because we're no longer saying, oh, it's this T. Now they're going by strands. So it's very important for us to do our homework and analyze what component is going to be tested, or what genre, what skills pertain to a certain genre. So I might give you the example here, like strand one. Strand one now has everything combined with our foundational language skills. You have your oral language, you have your beginning reading, and then your writing. And that's where the students begin to write, making sure you're putting that letter to sound recognition. Then you have the vocabulary which helps the students and enriches their vocabulary with academic vocabulary, which is a little bit higher, not your daily usage of words. Then you also have the fluency. The fluency is where we try to get the students to increase their level of reading and not just read straight across, but reading with prosody, making sure that they understand, having that intonation when they're reading. And then there's self-sustained reading. Self-sustained reading, which kicks into your Dear Tech, and that's when the students are able to read on their own independently at a silent level. Then you have your strength two. This strength two is your comprehension skills. Um, for example, your inferencing skills. What am I comprehending based on this text? And now that these new TEKs are in place, the rigor has to be there for the students. The way we question the students has to be there. That way the students are understanding, because when they get tested from the state, all that is being aligned with a higher area of rigor. Then you have your response skills, which is your strand three. And then you have your strand four, which is your multiple genres. Now here we have our literary elements. Now you have your fiction, your realistic fiction, you have your historical fiction that comes into play. So all these literary elements are being separated now at a different area. And your genres, which is you also have your informative, you also have your biographies, autobiographies, and all that information is extremely important. So then you have your author's purpose craft. Then you have your composition, which is the writing process. And this component right here is very important for us to start in the kinder level all the way up to high school. I know that, as teachers, we try to help the students to become better writers, but there is a writing process that's included in our ELA TEKS now. And then you have the genres for that as well, and then inquiry and research. Strand 7 has always been there, inquiry and research. However, now it has been separated into a different strand. And inquiry and research is pretty much your projects at the end of the lesson. What are the students learning? They need to understand how to do their researches on their own and not in the classroom. Take it outside of the classroom and independently, making sure that they know how to research on their own. Giving them those extra resources, that extra support, but that way they know, okay, on my own, this is what I'm going to be looking for, versus teacher guidance all the time in the classroom. So they're supposed to be doing their inquiry and research. The yearly plan. So these are the TEKS. These are the new state standards. and this is what we're here going forward, we're now going to be following. So when they're referring to the teaks, it's the strands. What we call them as strands. There's a total of 7 strands. So now we jump into the yearly plan. So PSG ISD has already analyzed all these components, all these strands, and what they've done is with our new adoption, they've already correlated and they decided to analyze the adoption. So what they did was they went ahead and made sure that these components, these strands, are being targeted throughout the year. So they've created a yearly plan with your stories, your selections, and based on those selections, they were able to make sure that they target every single comprehension skill. That way the students are being exposed to every single skill before they are tested in the start. So what I'm going to go over is going to be the yearly plan. And this is an example of a yearly plan. So this is a binder, the teachers get and they prepare and they kind of organize it. And together we collaborate. We've done this already before, and it's just the yearly plan, understanding what the process is. So like here you can see the yearly plan, and it's composed by the genre study, and then it has whether it's a poetry collection, whether it's a traditional tale, a folk tale, a realistic fiction, and then a myth. So basically what the curriculum team has been doing is they have been meeting and they have been trying to group the genres. That way when students are being exposed, for example, in the setting and the plot, major characters, minor characters. So when you focus on one story, for example, the traditional tale, you're able to focus on the folk tale where you can apply that same skill. You can introduce a skill in the first selection, but when you come to the second selection, you already add a different skill, yet bringing over the character one. So you kind of just keep on building and have the students understand that now, oh, this skill also applies here, here, here. So that's what we're doing. That's what the curriculum team does. So in a yearly plan, they have created all this for the teachers, this is the third grade one, but they've created it already for first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. So, we're very lucky to have this one ready, and, we're ready just to make sure that we understand what a skill is being introduced, and then when you're moving on, what type of genre that we're doing. So as you can see, it gives you the dates. We have the timeline where it gives you how many days you're supposed to be lasting with the selection and what CBAs are coming. Everything has been according to the reading block. So this is our ELA block. So every selection includes the vocabulary, the comprehension skills, the author's purpose and craft, and it is the 2019 2020. So do we all understand? Do we have any questions on the yearly? Like anything you might have? No? No? Any questions? No? So like, I'll give you an example. I know that one of the questions brought up in another grade level that I met with, they asked, what about if we're not able to complete the story because my students were having a difficult time understanding it? Can it be readjusted? It can. Like say, for example, you need to take like 2 or 3 days, I'm having a hard time. The kids are not understanding the concept. You can still take like maybe 1 or 2 days beyond and kind of meet and, with the principal's permission. I know that he's allowed us. If we have students that are struggling, we can extend that story a little bit more. But right now, the stories are weekly basis. However, if we foresee that we need like 1 or 2 additional days, we're allowed to go ahead and take that time. That way we can go ahead and make sure we're not just going to speedy rush because this is a yearly plan and it's set in place. This is applicable to change. And as teachers, we know our students and we know that what our students are needing, what they're lacking, and how can we strengthen our students. If we need that 1 or 2 days extra, we take that 1 or 2 days extra. So we're good with the yearly plan, right? This is the yearly plan. So inside our curriculum, what does our curriculum include? We have our media pieces. Our media pieces, and I'm going to show you an example of our media pieces. Our media pieces, when we go to our trainings, these are the additional resources aside from our Pearson. So we have our Pearson, which is our reading adoption from the district, and our reading adoption is composed, it's thematic, and it has the lessons for the teachers, how we're supposed to be following them. It has a cycle of um, the stories where it goes with the essential question skills. You go along and you move around how the curriculum yearly plan has been set up. So it gives you the information, how it's being processed here, like how we follow it as teachers. You have your whole group, you have your, it's structured, you have your shared reading, and then you have, hold on, let me go. Here it is. So it has its components, right? You have your reading workshop, and like we can all analyze that one together. It has our reading workshop, and here's where we have the selection of the week, and then it has the reading writing workshop, and then it has the writing workshop, and then it has the reading writing the workshop bridge. So the bridge is the one that kind of connects it with the selection and the writing. So it kind of helps the students to build that extra vocabulary as well. So that's the component of that. So for the reading adoption. Now we also have all of these additional resources that we go to trainings with Diana Ramirez, our consultant, and this is where the additional stuff that you add on to your lessons to enrich it, to provide a rich full curriculum in reading. So like for example, these are some of the examples for our media pieces. So we've been exposed to these, however, how do we use them? That's the question. And some of the teachers had a question like, well, when am I supposed to use the media piece, right? So the media piece, when you begin your lesson, you pretty much stream the very first media piece. And what it is they analyze the photograph, you make a connection. It's supposed to be a relevant connection to the students. So when you make that relevant connection, you get like a little article based on it. It's not going to be a whole novel for them to read. It's just something short and simple and, connecting. So for example, in this one, what are domesticated animals? And it gives you a photo of a cow and it gives you a little bit of information about cows are an example of a domesticated animal scientist, and they were domesticated, 10,000 years ago. And then you go into the selection, for example, and the selection for the week is talking about, the selection is about nature's patchwork quilt. So nature's patchwork quilt, the selection pertains to all the animals in the environment, the biodiversity, and what have you, all that good stuff. So this has a connection to that. So when you expose the students to the media piece, the students are able to have that connection. Oh, miss, like, oh, I remember, or we read this, or they kind of like you turn on that light bulb, you make them think at a higher level, and oh my God, that's a connection. So the media piece is exposure for the students to have, because they need to understand that everything that we read in the classroom is also exposed to the outside. So everything has to be, we try to make it relevant, connected. So that's the media piece. And then we jump into our vocabulary. So it's always really good to do this one at the beginning of the lesson before you start reading the selection. And then we have our vocabulary. So we've had the curriculum team compose the vocabulary, analyze the words that have been chosen. Some of the words that they chose, the vocabulary, they do a DMR organizer. And this is the organizer that they utilize, right? So the organizer is pretty much a concept web, and it has a vocabulary word. And then inside that vocabulary word, they have the actual meaning. But that vocabulary, when it's derived from the text, they get context clues. So context clues that give meaning to the word, and then they come up with the meaning. They provide an example, they have a picture, they have a synonym, the synonym to the vocabulary, the antonym to that vocabulary word. So at that one time, you're exposing the students not just to one vocabulary, but you're exposing them, like for example, in this one, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've exposed them to 5 different words, and you're targeting your context clues, your academic vocabulary, you're enriching the vocabulary, antonyms and synonyms, which are really, really extremely important for them to understand when they are reading their questions in the test. And then you have a sentence. The sentence always has to have a connection to the selection. So it's not a sentence that you expose it from the outside. You make that sentence connected to the text. Are we good with the vocabulary? Yes? So then the next thing we have is the comprehension clothesline. And this is where all this kicks in with our comprehension skills. So I've provided, here's an example for each one of you. So inside that is a graphic organizer, and it's composed of all those comprehension skills that are necessary to be applied in every single selection. And this one in particular is applied to all of them. So it doesn't matter the genre, it's applied to every single. However, sometimes you're going to get it does not apply to it, and but the other skills do. For example, we're going to go over the mental images. Mental images. What do you see if you were in that location? What do you hear? What can you feel? And then emotionally. And then you have your synthesized. Students are to be able to combine certain parts to make a whole different, whole new understanding of it. You have your evidence, which is your inferencing, which is extremely important for the students to be thinking at a higher level. And then you have your evaluating and determining key ideas, which are the flower. And then making connections. Very important that we constantly, as teachers, we make that connection with our students. That way they know that, everything that we're learning in the classroom is relevant. It's applied to them on the outside in the real world. So they need to have those 21st century skills where they understand that whatever they're learning is going to be applied in real life as well. So that's one of the examples of the organizers that I brought in. And then this is another one. Now this one only pertains, this is another graphic organizer. It's part of our curriculum. And so this is another one. This is a story elements. And this one only pertains to your story elements. For example, your realistic fiction, your folk tales, your poetry. So all that one has different types of skills. For example, it has your plot, your setting, your climax, your action, the author's use of the language. Which word choices is he using? And then inside you have your literal, your imagery, and your figurative language. You have your hyperbole, your personification, onomatopoeia, and then the type of genre. Is it a realistic, a fable, a folktale, a fairy tale, or a legend? So all this one helps you and guide it. And the good thing about our curriculum is that a lot of them have been pre-made already, and they help you to understand how can I use this. However, you can adjust it and you can utilize it however you want to in the classroom with the students. If you feel like, you know what, I'm going to apply this one as a minor character because they play an important part, then you add it on to according to how you're teaching your lesson. But those are a guide and they've been provided for you all. So that way it helps you with your lesson with extra resources for the students. Then our next one is going to be our district progress monitoring. So now these are really, really good. These help you assess the student's level of comprehension. So based on what you have taught during the week with the students, all the concepts and skills that you have been introducing. So for example, this one right here, this is a progress monitoring for one of our selections, right? And what the district has done is they have actually used the release test. And those release tests that they have used, they've derived the STEMI. So for example, if I'm looking for a question on the plot, on major characters, or whatever this concept is, what the district has done is they have analyzed all those skills and they have gone into the state test, which are the released ones, and they get the sentence stemming and they pretty much change it up to a stemming that's connected to the text. So for example, here it says, what does the narrator mean when he says, Granddaddy had a beaming smile? And that is all your literal images, a beaming smile. So what they have done, they have gotten this particular one from a certain state test. And I'll give you the example right here. So this is one of the progress monitoring, and it helps you to monitor your students' level, where they're at, and the comprehension. And if you want to know, oh, okay, because I have teachers asking me, what is this form for? I don't understand. I just know it's an answer key. Here, it provides you the actual strand. What strand? Because now we're no longer using our teaks. So they're all been switched over to the strand. What, bless you. And so what strand, you're covering, and then it tells you the skill number, and then it tells you, is it a vocabulary, author's purpose, and then it tells you the star. What star release was it derived from? And the number. What So that way, when you go, oh, let me look at our, you know how we're always looking at our STAR test release to make that connection. You can go back 2018, number one. This is where they got it from. So that's what this answer key helps you to understand. It gives you all that information, and that way you also can become more familiar. Because we're new to the state standards, and not all of us are familiar. You know, before we knew our skills right off the top of the head, and now we're like, okay, what strand am I falling under? Because everything has changed and they've increased the strands. So this helps a lot. It helps a lot. That's pretty much it for our that's our curriculum component for reading. Do you all have any questions or need a little bit more
I
clarity?
do have a question. So say our kids are having trouble, a good amount of our class is having trouble with question number one. So that we can come and say, okay, I need to work a little bit more with that particular strand. Is that what we're trying to help with? You know what I mean?
Yes. What happens is the progress monitoring, you're able to go ahead and see where your students are. And it's a good example. For example, if you have a whole class that's
Right, that's
struggling,
what I'm saying.
then what we need to do is we need to take it a step back and say, how can I reteach this concept?
Particular.
Yes. And like, for example, we work as a team, and what we can do is we can collaborate with each other and say, you know what, how did you teach it? Can you please help me out with the way you taught it? Because my kids are not comprehending it. And you can provide your example and vice versa. And that's really, really good because we've had that happen before where we kind of share our ideas and you're able to bring your lesson. Um, we did have a teacher prior. I remember we had that particular happen, that particular situation happen. And we remember when we came together, we kind of, okay, can you tell us how you taught the lesson? So we go over in detail how the lesson was taught, and then we see, you know what, maybe let's try targeting at this level. And like he was saying, well, my students are at a different level, you know, they're just not comprehending. So we provided examples to that teacher and said, you know what, this is how I taught it. Try implementing it this way. And you know, he did. He grabbed our ideas, he took it back to the class, and he said, oh my God, that helped me so much. So when we collaborate with each other and we understand, you know what, it was my whole class. Was it me, the teacher? Was it them? They weren't listening. What was the classroom management like? So we need to ask ourselves those questions. And when we discuss in our meetings, we can sit together and say, you know what, this didn't work for me. So based on the progress monitoring, you're able to evaluate, you know what, it wasn't just number one, it was number one and three, and they're the same skill, which same strand, which goes back to, you know what, I think I need help in this. You know, and that's what we're here for. We're here to help each other out. You know, we're not perfect, we're beyond, and we make mistakes, and or sometimes our lessons don't go how we planned them to go. And I know that me myself, I've been in that situation where did I teach it wrong? I self question myself, or maybe they didn't have a clarification on this. You can get relevant examples, videos like your media pieces. So there's other resources, and the best resource as well is us coming together and helping you, or helping Ms. Leslie how to go ahead and target this
So
lesson.
when that does happen, do we stay with that one, or for the next time or the next week we start focusing a little bit more on that? Is that how we try to do it?
What you can do is you can reteach the lesson and then try to see if we can create another question, another sentence dummy, which is where we get it from our adoption. Our adoption is a little bit more thematic, and these are just extra resources. So what we can do is we can test the skill in isolation, and you can get like a different type of format. For example, we have our extra resources, and I'm going to cover them in a little bit, the extra ones. So you know what? I'm going to focus on this skill, see if it's going to be mastered now. So that's what we do. And then that's where our tutoring is going to kick into play, which is very good that you're asking that because now it gives us a better understanding. How am I targeting my groups for tutoring? So yeah, very good question. Thank you very much. Any other? No? We're good? That's a really good question. Right now we're connected to the tutoring. So I'm going to go ahead and go on. And this is still pertaining to the 6 weeks curriculum that we have. So it will take place prior to every 6 weeks period. That's when we meet. That's when our training comes into play. And will consist of a half day session for every grade level. So every grade level gets to attend for half days unless it's tentatively changed. And then it'll include a review of the instructional best practices and, questions like that. I'm having a hard time. Is there additional help outside externally? Remember, we have our staff that help, our support staff here, but we also can externally get extra help from the outside. And the math now. So that was our reading component. I'm going to go ahead and put this one away. And I'm gonna go ahead and cover now the math. Now the math is a little bit more what we have in place. So PSJISD has our current, and this is one of the math finders that we utilize. So our math curriculum, we have Sharon Wells. That's our curriculum. That is what we follow, and it's verbatim, and we're gonna go into detail how it is right now. So it provides rigorous lessons and in-depth lessons. Frequent assessments, they're weekly, every Friday. And then you have your spiral repetition. We love this. This helps the students to be spiral. I understand that coming from one grade level to the next grade level, skills, concepts, basic facts are always targeted. So it's very, very scaffolded. It's very, very organized for us teachers. That way we're able to follow that curriculum that is in place for the district. Real life hands-on lessons. It provides a lot of real life hands-on. It's relevant to the outside. Manipulative, huge manipulative. It tells you what you need. And then it has a strong foundation for understanding with conceptual learning opportunities from concrete to abstract. So it starts at the beginning. For example, it starts giving them like, pictorial models like blocks, organizing their information, and then slowly it starts removing the block, and then it gets into a deeper connection with like a problem solving. So that concept starts single, and then it gets increasing by making it a little bit more challenging for the students. So it helps a lot with them to understand from a concrete, it goes to an abstract activity. Active learning experiences to conceptualize skills being taught. So it helps them with the skills so that way they're taught based on their learning experiences as well. So it's very relevantly connected to um, real life. So this is how our Sharon Rose curriculum is composed. It's a 90-minute block, right? And we have the first 15 minutes is your problem solving. And then you have your basic facts at 15 minutes. Then you have your skills at 15 minutes. Then you have the concept of the week that's 45 minutes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just really quickly go over the curriculum. So here it is. This is our timeline. And PSGISD has already gotten together with Sharon Wells, right? They consult together. We have our consultants that come in weekly and we meet with them as well. So this is what the guide, the yearly plan looks like. So you have the yearly plan and it's already set, and it's already set with your problem solving standards, your skills. And then it has your basic facts, that's the row. And then it has your concepts. So it has your skills in a section, and then it has your concepts. And that it's according by 6 weeks, exactly how you're supposed to be following the yearly plan. So this is one of the examples, third grade. And then it provides you, every teacher is provided, you know how we get our copies every 6 weeks. We have our whole packet complete, and we have all the process standards. It has the reporting categories, and then it has the numerical representation and relationship. So all this information is what when we meet, we create our lesson plans according to that, and we turn them into the principal, to the campus principal. So this helps us to understand. We get to read the STEM, the reporting category and the actual concept. That way we understand, for example, when it says representing multiplication problems, it's not just, oh, 2 by 1. There's different ways to represent that problem. You can represent it, what type of expressions can you do it? For example, you can do it in an array model. You can do it in an algorithm model. You can also do it in a distributed property model. And then when it's applied to a problem solving, so it's different ways. We need to understand the strand. How is that concept? What is it asking for the student to do? What is the learning objective there? So it has all the objectives there. That's part of the Sharon Wells. And then it gives you, it starts off with your problem solving. So it provides you with a good pack of the problem solving. And the problem solving is there. It does provide you with the answer key. And then, it has the blank copies for the teacher to go ahead and work on. And then you provide, the strategy for the students. It has the UPSI chart where you're supposed to be following that model and according to how the students are learning. So here you have the model, the problem solving model. So we analyze the given information, and then you formulate a plan or strategy. So making sure the students understand that operation, the method, the number sentence, and the process. Then they determine their solution. So it goes this way. And then they evaluate the solution. So that's the problem solving component, and the problem solving component is in 15 minutes. 15 minutes, and you're not supposed to be doing like 4 or 5 problems. It's only two. You target the first one, 1A and 2A. And even at that, it has those numbers to help us guide us. We're on day one, so 1A and then 1B. So that's pretty much the problem solving. We understand the, yes?
If if I have students that can't do the UPSI chart,
Mhm.
is it really required for them to do it?
No, it's not required. It's just a guide for
Okay.
teachers. But what you can do is if they can't do that, you can still follow the model and eliminate certain. But the only thing is that as teachers, we need to expose the vocabulary because I'll be real honest with you. When you look at this, for example, the number sentence. If you were to skip this process, let me just give an example, right? And you never expose a student to the number sentence. When they get the STAR test, the actual stemming will utilize these words right here. So it's important to maybe they cannot follow it, but you can verbally constantly, oh, what is the operation here? Oh, and refer to the symbols. So like in the classroom, you see the symbols like, oh, what is the operation? And point to the symbol addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. Like constantly refer to them as having that exposure. And that's one of the main concerns that we talked as a campus is academic vocabulary and math. The students are having a difficult time, and when we don't follow, you don't have to follow necessarily like, oh, you need to do everything. No, but understand, oh, we're going to do a number sentence here. What would it look like? The process, and the process is the sum of, because that vocabulary is going to come out in the test. So it's very important that we constantly have, and it's really good because, like, for example, I see the symbols here, I see the academic vocabulary, and all that good stuff. So that helps a lot, the exposure. So it is adjustable according to the student needs as well, which is really, really good because our students do come at different levels. You know. So that was the problem solving component. And then next we're going to look at our basic facts. Basic facts as well. It is 15 minutes and you're only supposed to do the letter. So for example, on day one, you only do one. Basic facts, one. And it has teacher examples. It has a verbatim script, where we can follow. And it's very detailed. And it gives you an example of verbatim. It's of a verbatim script and the teacher is supposed to follow that script. That is required. Um, and then it gives you a model. So when you go to the next problem, it's the same model, the same problem, the same process, the same concept. You just use the verbatim script and apply it to the second one. So this is an example of my of basic facts. So it just depends what 6 weeks we're on. It starts getting more advanced level, and they're all mixed. So the students are getting exposed with multiplication daily, daily, daily. So this one is a daily, and they are supposed to be done daily. However, if there is, you can only do half of the worksheet because the students are taking a little bit longer. Then, as long as you're exposing the 15 minutes within that time. And then we have our skills. Our skills. These are different types of categories. And I'll give you an example. Bar graphs. Bar graphs is not tested, is not, I'm sorry, not that it's not tested. It's actually not a skill that's in isolation, as one. We're going to teach bar graphs all day, like all my 45 minutes as a concept. It's actually kicked down to a skills. Very important. It is tested in the state. However, its exposure daily depends. So it depends what the skill gives you. But like a bar graph is not tested. It's not going to come out under your concept of the week. You're not going to be testing. You're not going to be teaching in depth for bar graphs. So but you are going to be covering it under your skills. So giving you more time for the skills that are heavily tested and that are weighed more and have more problems that are tested in the store. So then these are skills that we cover. And we have our concept of the week. So the concept of the week goes in 45 minutes. 45, it's a 45-minute, that's where you focus on. This is the actual concept of the week. So we go over the concept of the week in detail, try to provide your examples. I provide videos in the classroom. So that's one of the main connections to the students. They love that media. They love that technology. So if you expose a 2-3 minute video, one of the examples I use is Number Rock, and I connect that one a lot. There's a lot of good concept videos that help you have that connection with the students. So that way they're like, oh, I know what I'm doing. And then if they don't, then here's where we kick in with an anchor chart. and make sure that in their journal they're constantly having that skill. So you provide them an example, a model of the way you teach it to the students. You also have the verbatim script that helps you. Oh, how am I going to follow this? And it tells you detail what you need, your manipulatives, what the students will be using on day one, day two, day three, and that's how it follows. It has that sequencing to help you and guide you. One thing that I see in this classroom really good is the anchor charts, and that is a really good connection. Students are always referring to that. So if you use your anchor charts to attach them to your skills, it helps them tremendously to look around because you're constantly making that connection. Your vocabulary words as well, being exposed in the classroom. That way the students can understand, when you say, what is the sum of, they're not like, oh, well, where's the word plus? No, we don't get that. We try to increase the academic vocabulary. So this is the Sharon Wells. That is a 90 block component, and it's composed of problem solving, your basic facts, your skills, and your concepts of the week. Do we have any questions on the math? The math is pretty scripted. Of course, it's math, and it has four different components that help us. That's very, very guided, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how you. I really like um, the way it's set up for us. Do we have any questions on this one? I'm gonna continue. So these are some additional resources, and these additional resources can be applied to both to your reading and to your math curriculum. So these additional resources, for example, Computer Lab. Computer Lab, kids get exposed daily, 30 minutes, and they have Imagine Math. Math is correlated with our math curriculum. We have our Imagine Reading, which is a connection to our reading ELAR block. So we have the Computer Lab accessible to every student in the school. We also have workbooks. Workbooks, like for example, going back to what you said, my students are struggling. Okay, let's go ahead and take it to another selection. Maybe bring it down a little bit on the selection, still leaving it at their level, but more of an intervention process. So we look at Think Up, we have motivation reading, and then we have some of the math motivation reading. So those workbooks are the ones that kick in, and you utilize them, extra additional resources to help them improve on the lesson. Also Coach. Coach is another workbook that we have. And then your anchor charts. These ladies, they're very, very, very useful. They help the students. And like I said, there are some examples right here. And they actually help the students tremendously to make that connection. Like, what am I learning? Or I forgot what the teacher said yesterday, but when they refer to that anchor chart, and then like they're so colorful, it attracts them.
And
The
pictures
colors.
mean, like, because a lot of students like me, I'm a visual person, so you connect like, oh, this, it makes more
Yes,
sense.
it
I like that.
Yes, it does. It does. It makes that connection, and so it helps a lot. So anchor charts are really, really, I really recommend you to do them. I know that our principal does require for us to have anchor charts in the classroom, and they do help increase that knowledge of the concept that they're learning. Foldables. Foldables are very, very helpful. Like we have our foldables for math, and in math, whether you're learning multiplication, whether you're learning a problem solving skill, whether it is distributive property. Another concept is a measurement. You create a foldable, and it doesn't have to be this humongous foldable. A simple foldable you can utilize, and the students can reflect during the week, all week. And then on Friday, they're able to gradually release that and then be assessed on Friday. So foldables are another additional resource that we can utilize as teachers in the classroom. And of course, when we go to the training, they always provide us with an example. Here, a take back, a take back. So that helps us to be able to come back and you know what, let me try it with my classroom. If it doesn't work, then you try something else and we can research together or we can, what did you use? Did you use that foldable or did you use a different one? So we can collaborate and work with each other. That way we can help each other, help our students grow. So those are the additional resources and all this connection, all this curriculum. When we as teachers provide all this curriculum, it is extremely important for us to know that what is the outcome of everything that they're learning. One, student success, student growth, and very important connected to our STAR test. So the STAR test here, this is the State of the Texas Assessment of Academic Readiness, which we're all familiar because we are the initial beginners to the third grade testing. We are the first, our students are tested first in third grade. So that's where they start already the testing process. So the testing begins in third and it goes all the way to the high school and they're tested in the core subjects in the reading, the writing, math, science, and social studies. And us in third grade, we tested Math and reading, yes. So we're very familiar with math and reading that we test them. We do have them timed for 4 hours. However, we do have our students, our special populations, and each one is, they have extended time or they have extended additional resources and accommodations that we must follow as teachers. And those are on a different, depending on what their plan has, yes, their, their needs, very good, thank you. So, and they are timed for 4 hours. So everything that we're learning, all that curriculum is applied to our STAR test at the end, where our students are being held accountable, our teachers are being held accountable for this, and what are we doing to increase that knowledge and making sure that we understand. So this is our end of year formative assessment, and that gives us a lot more information for the following year. How can we better our curriculum? How can we enhance it? What did I do that could have gone better? So that's what we always want to refer back and understand that at the end, we're tested on this. Extremely important to know our testing dates. Our testing dates for math is going to be this year on a Tuesday, which is very good because they had been doing Mondays, which was not great for our students because some of them just don't show up on Monday. Some of
Really
them
tired.
very tired, yes. Or, they were celebrating and, they just didn't wake up on time. They're not focused. They're not mentally ready. So we're very, very glad that the state decided to do the math test on May 12th, Tuesday. And then our reading is on Wednesday, which is on May 13th. So important to know our STAR testing dates. Our campus principal wants us to constantly know that and refer to that. I know that yesterday in your boxes, they placed a testing schedule. So just know that that's what we refer back to, that testing schedule. Make sure that we know it, constantly remind the students, you can't be out, you can't be out, and you need to be present. It's important for them to be present. Um, Another thing, third grade, there's no retakes, and we all know that. No retakes for third grade. In fifth grade there is, and fourth grade there isn't. But in our elementary level, our third graders are not retested. So it's just a one-time shot, and we're hoping that they excel that test. Tutoring. So when it comes back to your question, how you were saying, like, what if my student is not understanding this concept, or I see that more of the students are struggling? So our tutoring, we do offer our tutoring, and so far we've been really good about being here on time for tutoring and being present for our students. We have tutoring on Tuesday and Thursdays. It's from 3:45 to 5:45, and based on our curriculum that we have been given, we try to enrich it more at a small group intervention process, where we can get additional resources. We can derive from here and there to try to enrich that concept. Saturdays. We have started our Saturdays already. We are on our second Saturday, and we're going to continue from here up into the testing date that we're going to be offering tutoring for our students from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. So it's important that we make that time for our students. However, we can't make that, making the accommodation with Mr. Garcia. That way he knows that you're not going to be here, or what can we do to help each other out, to make sure that we're present here for our students, because I know that Saturdays is kind of hard for us to show up, but yet it's more time with our students in one given moment with a small group versus during the week that it's a shorter time. Prescriptive lessons. This is where your lessons have to be prescriptive. So I am not going to cover character for the entire group when I know that they're mastering that concept. So my job is to make sure that I look at that good data that we have, analyze it, and look where are my students need. And for example, the progress monitor, when you go back to that and see, you know what, they're struggling here. What can I do to better that lesson? You know what, I'm going to make it, when I get it a small group, maybe the big group wasn't working for them, or you make it in a small group and you try to make it, you kind of switch the lesson, but don't reteach the same lesson. You make it a little bit more prescriptive versus as a whole. So we need to make sure that our lessons are not just be, let me just do character, with everybody. No, when you look at your scores, when you look at your progress monitors and your responses, you kind of see where your areas of needs are. What students are struggling? Which ones can I pull in for this day? And making sure that our students, our targeting groups, are based on data. We need to make sure that when we create our groups, we're not creating groups, oh, just you, come, that's it. No, it's, you know what, this group right here is struggling with multiplication, while this other group is struggling with place value. So you kind of bring your groups at a different. So I'll give you the example, like during the week, I have a certain group on Tuesday, and then I have a total different group on Thursday, and then on Saturday, it's a total different group. So I'm trying to target my groups that not just need an area of concern, but a skill of concern based on data. So I have some students that are coming in and saying, well, I don't need tutoring, I have an 80. Yeah, but when we look at our STAR data, our scores, we have to make sure that we're targeting if my student is at an approaching level, how can I get that student to get into the, I'm sorry, if the student is at a did not meets, how can I get them to come to the approaching level? What is the goal? How far are you from that goal? So that is our good information that we utilize, which is your data, to be able to target your groups. So based on that, that's what we should be doing. And my next meeting with you all, what I want to do is I want to analyze data and help you understand, because I know data can be difficult. We need to sit down together and analyze it. How can I create my groups? How can I don't understand how to get into this level. So sometimes it's just one problem. Like I have been looking at some of my kids and it's like, oh my goodness, if you would have just gotten that one problem, you would have been at a master's level. And all just understanding that area of the data. So that is your tutoring. And then parental involvement. It's very important as teachers. We know that our parents are extremely important. And when we build those relationships with them and have that open door policy to them, it just, the students can work a lot more for you, knowing that you have a communication with their parents. So how can we have that? We have parent volunteers as long as they go through the screening process. They can come in, they can help out, whatever Mr. Garcia allows them, what is in their duties. We have parent advisory council meeting. For example, yesterday we had a meeting and it was on building good relationships. So we have all these really good topics that we need to make sure that it's not just a letter that goes home. It's a letter about this topic, boys and girls. Have your parents come in, and that way they can communicate with their school and know what is happening within our environment. We also have the LPAC committee and the SBDM committee. They can be involved with making this is the site-based decision committee here on campus, and the LPAC, which focuses on our English language learner students. And then we have our daily reading at home, making sure that we talk to the parents and telling them how important reading is, not just to read, but it's to have that connection with what they're learning in the classroom, how they can apply to our curriculum, and when they're being assessed, reading is an important component for anything. They have to make sure that they read for math. They have to make sure that they read for reading. And math is not just numbers. It's reading numbers with words as well, their academic vocabulary. And it enriches their communication skills as well. So having that communication with parents and telling them, how can you help out? Well, this is how you can help out. Designate a certain time for reading. Multiplication cards. They can also be involved with multiplication is heavily tested in third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and it continues. So multiplication cards. I mean, while you're driving, verbally, and that's one of the homework assignments that some of my students have is that today is just review day. It's not no homework day. It's a review day. So when your mom is driving, you kind of like, hey, oh, what's 4 times 4? And the student can be answering, and that's like some form of, wow, I didn't know. That's a great idea. So you have that involvement with the teacher, that with the parents, the teacher and the parents build those communications, and they want to ask you, they want to seek for your advice. We all need help, and sometimes we just by communicating with each other helps us to feed off of each other. Communication with teachers, conferences, phone calls. We need to make sure that we make those conferences. If even though to the student that is mastering something, giving that phone call, you know what, your child did excellent today. It's not just a discipline issue or an academic issue. Always have that communication with them. That way they know, oh, you're doing good, but the teacher never tells me anything. They only call me when you're doing something wrong. And then phone calls. Make that phone call. Make that meeting. Show them data. Show them this is what they're lacking. This is how they can help you. Do we have any questions on the parental involvement?
I just have a quick question. What about, like, I know that sometimes we give them projects to do at home, and they don't have the resources, or the parents sometimes they struggle themselves with, with the reading and stuff. How do we work, or how do we approach that? Because majority of time is sometimes parents struggle themselves. To them, like, I don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? That's what I've heard. Like, well, I didn't do this in school, so it's like a kind of a struggle. So how do we get where the parents feel comfortable enough, where the kids where they work together? You know what I mean? Like
Yes,
like
what can we do?
right,
The only suggestion that I can give you, I know that I've experienced that in the
Right.
classroom, and as teachers, we have to be flexible. We have to have that understanding that not everybody has those resources available to them. However, and I'm going to go back, we can easily say the library is accessible, free to the public, but some parents are going to tell you, I don't have that form of transportation. My son or child rides the bus. So what I have done in that case, I've communicated, however, very important, because that's why sometimes when we don't open those relations, we don't build those relationships, parents are scared to call us and say, you know what, um, um, I'm just not going to call a teacher. Don't do it. So you call and say, so and so didn't bring their project. Was there something happening? Was there a concern? Why did he not do it? Some of the times, parents are going to tell you they never brought it home, right?
right,
Which I still allow an extension of time. One, allow an extension of time. And then two, when they don't have the resources, as teachers, we can easily say, you know what? I had a student one time says, Miss, I can't go to the library. My mom won't take me. I said, okay, that's fine. That's not a problem. So what can you do? Based on what you know, well, I can draw them, and that's perfectly fine. So when you learn to appreciate that kind of work, where I had this awesome project done, and someone who drew, it was more. I gave them recognition in front of the classroom, and I said, you know what? You got to give them that recognition and understanding, like, wow, you did an amazing job. You actually went above and beyond,
right.
and you sketched everything. Miss, I didn't have a poster board in the office. There's always extra poster boards. We can easily say, ask the kids who's not going to be able to go to the store and get one, and we can give them the poster boards as well. Also kicks into our differentiating the instruction. So sometimes we have students at a different level that can be able to provide all those resources. So you can bring it down a notch and say, you know what, you're going to go ahead and research or make it a simple project for them. So we can always modify and then always be open enough to talking to that parent and say, is there something that I can help you in? And oh yes, miss, we just don't have a printer. We don't have access to going. We don't have transportation. And I can easily say, hey, not a problem. After school, you can stay with me for 5 minutes. And I know that we don't have access to printing so many things. We're kind of controlling that. But we can easily say, hey, why don't you sketch something? Because kids are amazing drawers and they love to draw in color. So you can just modify that and have that open communication with, like, I'm here, let me know. Um, Poster boards, give them out. We have, ask the office. The office is always willing to help. I know that some of our students don't even have sometimes crayons at home. So another thing would be like, don't worry about it. Give them a couple of minutes in the classroom to color this daily, but have that communication and build it with your students and your parents to be able to know that those concerns exist there. Yeah. So So I, oh, I'm sorry. So I do want to thank you. This is coming from me, so I'm letting you know. I do want to thank you for, being present. When teachers understand and follow the curriculum, when we understand what we're doing for us as teachers, we need to understand what we're going to teach. So when we understand and follow the curriculum, which are the state standards, um, they provide their students massive knowledge, which makes them successful. And that's our goal. Our goal is to get them college ready, college ready. So that is one of the things I really, really, truly thank you. And hoping, is there any remarks or concerns that you all have? Let me check. Any concerns that you all might have? Thank you. No? This is a simple, just a really quick. Hopefully I can access it. So I went ahead and added, so it's a little restricted. I don't think I can. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop. It was a video that I had included. I know it's not gonna be, it's kind of restricted, but it was a video just to inspire you as teachers as how successful you all are and how huge impact that you make to our students. Every single teacher has an impact on their students, whether they become successful or not. And our goal is to always provide them with a richful curriculum that will enhance their knowledge, increase their knowledge, and prepare them for the future. So I truly thank you, and I'm gonna go ahead and end it already. Okay, thank you.